It's now time for my top 10 death metal albums of 2023. This was a difficult list to do because it was an excellent year for death metal. Took a lot of work to get this down to 10. I probably could have done a lot more, but this is the top 10, and I will be including subgenres of death metal, excluding melodic death metal because I already did a list on that. So with that being said, let's get into it. Coming in number 10 is Deathklok with Deathalbum IV. This is the cartoon band, but they're also a very good death metal band because their creator, Brendan Small, is a metalhead and he also plays in the band. I reviewed this favorably when it came out, and I think it has held very well. The album is pretty interesting. It's kind of straightforward. They're playing death metal, but it's melodic. I wouldn't call it melodic death metal, but it's melodic, but it's death metal, if that makes any sense. They're like heavy enough to appeal to a metal fan base, but accessible enough to appeal to people who just watch the cartoon. So that's kind of how I describe them. I probably like the front half of the album better. I like songs like Gardener of Vengeance and Aortic Desecration. It's a fun death metal. When I did my first review, I gave it a 7 out of 10, but I think it has held up well and it has made my top 10, so it's pretty good. Coming in at number 9 is Autopsy with Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts. I didn't do a full review of this, but it's a solid album. It's a death metal band. They've been around a long time. They have some veterans from death metal like Chris Reifert, Eric Cutler, Danny Corrales, and they have a new guy called Greg Wilkinson. They've been very busy because it comes like about a year after their last album, Morbidly Triumphant. And what I like about this band is that they're not afraid to slow it down at times while still maintaining their heaviness. They show off their death doom side with No Mortal Left Alive. Toxic Death Fuck is a cool song, it has a catchy chorus, and there's also some cool OSDM with a track Throat Saw and the title track. Overall, solid release from another consistent band in death metal. Coming in at number 8 is Crypta with Shades of Sorrow. When this came out, I thought it was the best death metal album of the year. I gave it another listen, and it's still very good, but it hasn't held up as well as I thought it would. I'm actually surprised it came in at number 8. It feels low for me, but everything above this is a lot much better. But with that being said, it's really great. It deserves to be here. And if you didn't know, it's an all-female death metal band featuring ex-members of Nervosa, Luana D'Ameto, Fernanda Lira, and the members Taina Bergamici and Jessica Falci. I like the second half of this album better. My favorite songs being Trail of Traitors and Lord of Runes. Those are great songs. But overall, it's a solid album. Even if it dropped a few slots, it's still really good. Coming in at number 7 is Frozen Soul with Glacial Domination. They are an older school death metal band. They write songs within the context of being in the freezing cold. I remember they released their debut in 2021. This one's probably a little better. I've heard this band compared to like Bolt Thrower. Songs are heavy. They're not always fast-paced. Sometimes they slow it down, and then they have guests on the album. They have Matt Heafy from Trivium, John Gallagher of Dying Fetus, and someone who goes by the name of Gost, G-O-S-T. Favorite songs are Glacial Domination, Morbid Effigy, and another song called Frozen Soul, which is named after their band. So that's pretty cool. They have some cool like horror movie synth interludes, and then lots of great like little instrumentals as well. So overall, just a great album for fans of the old school death metal. Coming in at number 6 is Creeping Death with Boundless Domain. My first impression was that it's kind of bold to pick this name. Like, it's a well-known Metallica song, so I think it leads people to believe they're like a Metallica cover band, but it's not the case. They play sick and heavy death metal. They have an old school sound with some wailing guitars. They add in cool tempo changes. They add in shredding solos. Favorite song, Remnants of the Old Gods. It has some more atmospheric and feedback sections. Guitar riff is a little slower, it has lots of feeling, but I like the OSDM of an intestinal rap and the darker sounding Vitrified Earth. The band stands out because they know when it's time to speed up, they know when they should slow down, to switch gears, and I think that's a thing that puts this album in the top 10 as opposed to other albums, because sometimes with death metal, you know, sometimes everything sounds the same, but with this, that wasn't the case. Overall, killer album. Coming in at number 5 is Chaos Horrific by Cannibal Corpse. This was the follow-up to Violence Unimagined, and the second with Eric Rutan on guitar. That's important to know because it has a sound similar to Violence Unimagined, but I think Chaos Horrific is a little better. Their sound has not really changed much throughout their discography, but I'm saying it's a solid entry into one of their most consistent discographies in death metal. So I like the song A Summon for Sacrifice, has some slower parts, but still really great. I also like Blood Blind. I like the chorus when Corpse Grinder says like, subjugate, subjugate, subjugate. I really like that, but overall the entire album is good. Lyrics are very cool, very well written, and every song has this different like horrific concept. So overall, just a great album. They're a legacy band in death metal, and there's no way they're not going to be on this list. Coming in at number 4 is Dying Fetus with Make Them Beg for Death. They are a brutal death metal band. The sound is a lot more technical and complex than a typical death metal band. They play a subgenre of death metal called slam that was popularized by the band Suffocation, who also had an album out this year, but that's not on this list because the Dying Fetus album was far superior. Solid album all the way through. The album is filled with chunky guitar riffs, fast-paced blast beats, and death metal growls. The thing that makes this album stand out is the songs all have this like natural flow to them from start to finish. They're masters at managing tempo changes, and that keeps the listener from getting bored. I like the whole album, but best songs are in the middle, from track number 3 with Feast of Ashes, continuing with Throw 'Em in the Van, followed up with Unbridled Fury. Those are my favorites, but overall, solid album, start to finish. It's only been out for about 3 months, but it's great. Coming in at number 3 is Horrendous with Ontological Mysterium. So this one first came out, I wasn't completely blown away by it. I even called it overhyped in my initial review, but since then I have grown to eat my words. That's a great death metal album, even if it's considered like progressive death metal. The album was definitely a grower. I like the song Praetorian Hymn. The main riff reminded me of like Disconnect by Megadeth. I like that one. Exogenesis, another great song. That one got repeat play on various playlists. I've been listening to that one a lot. Overall, this album has held up very well. It's on the extreme side of death metal, so it might take a few listens to get into it. It's not easy listening, but definitely worth it. Coming in at number 2 is Obituary with Dying of Everything. This one came out back in January. It was one of the first albums I reviewed on the channel in 2023, and it has held up very well over the past 12 months. This is one of the best albums in a long time, maybe even since the 90s. We have the opener, Barely Alive. It's just a great old school death metal song. I like the single, The Wrong Time. That was really good. It was also very catchy, but I like the deeper cuts. For example, track number 4 called War. That one is just very heavy. It's sick, it's vile. It has some really awesome vocals by John Tardy. Overall, solid album. For that reason, I have it on this list. Coming in number 1 is the Zenith Passage with Datalysium. So I will be honest, I'm not always a big fan of tech death. I understand it takes a lot of skill and talent to play at high speeds with complex guitar riffs and precise drum patterns, but sometimes the music sounds so technical that it loses some of its melody. But this band, they were able to create some very good songs and still maintain that level of technicality. this album doesn't really sound like anything else like on this list. I like the songs The Axiom of Error, that's great. It has these like Meshuggah style guitar riffs. Algorithmic Salvation, another one great with these complex arrangements. And it's an album that's, it's going to take a while to get into, even if you're not the biggest death metal fan, but I've always thought of this genre as kind of like being like difficult to listen to, but when it's good, it's really good. Like they created like music like unlike anything else of the other death metal bands. So I think for that reason, I like it. The songs are just really good. They have a lot of substance and they're very unique. I would call them death metal or tech death with progressive metal. I would even say that, but it's actually a surprise pick because it was my first time hearing this band. I've never heard of them before. I listened to it, I reviewed it, and for that reason I have it at number 1. So that is all for now. Let me know some of your favorite death metal albums in the comments section. I know I missed a lot. 2023 was like the year for death metal. But if you're interested, here are some other full reviews of the songs of the albums I mentioned. They're going to be right here. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. Please comment. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I will see you in the next video.